I've always thought Polestar 2s were really cool cars, and after spending quite a lot of time with this particular one, I really like them. In fact, it's hard for me to say this, but after driving this for the last few weeks, I prefer driving this to my Tesla Model Y Performance. There are some great things about this car, and I'll make a video about that and I'll link to it at the end of this video. But for now, here are the worst things about it. Let's start with number one, which is this drinks holder. So unless you drink venti coffees, it's almost impossible to get your coffee out of here without pulling the lid off it. And for your passenger, their drinks holder is here, which is even less accessible. And as a driver, if your passenger's got a drink, this bit just gets right on your nerves of your elbow. But don't worry, Polestar have thought of that, and you just annoy your backseat passengers instead. Next is the boot button, and I like the fact that you can't actually see it anywhere. However, if you've not got the foot wavy function, as this car hasn't, it is right under there, where all the dirt will be in the winter. Next is the back seats. So I'm sitting behind my normal driving position here. I'm 6'2". Or am I 5'7"? I can't remember. And I've got a good amount of room. I mean, if you were 6'2", then that would impact on the people behind you. But the seating position here is fairly upright and hard on the back. And this is based on an ICE car, which means it shares the same chassis as cars like the XC40. And that's important with EVs because you end up with things like this. Like, not only do you get a transmission tunnel in an EV, you also get less space. An example would be, for instance, an ID3, which I wouldn't recommend buying, but is based on an EV chassis, has more room in the back than a Passat. We've got an Audi Q4 e-tron, again an EV chassis, and that has more room in the back, or about the same room in the back as an e-tron Q8 that I had for a while. So having an EV chassis does give you a lot of the benefits of having a more spacious cabin. It's not cramped in here, but it's not quite as open and big as it could be. Next is ride quality. Now, if you've watched a lot of reviews of this car, which you probably have, a lot of reviewers say that the suspension is harsh. Now, I mean, as a Tesla driver, I found it to be quite good, actually, to be honest. But it is a little bit firm, and I don't actually think this is a negative because it does suit the car. And you've got all the benefits of having a car, as the way it handles, etc. But you've got that slightly higher off the ground feel when you're driving, so you get a lot of the benefits of having an SUV at the same time, without compromising on performance and handling. The bezels on this are just really, I like thicker than my finger. I'm not sure why, but they're just really thick all the way around this tablet. And this tablet's excellent, but the edge is taken off of it by the fact that you've got such big bezels here. Next is rear visibility. It's just not that good. You've got fairly big B pillars and C pillars, and the view out the back isn't that good either. The good news here though is the rear parking camera is actually excellent, really bright, really easy to see and use. The model above this has the top-down display as well for parking. So although rear visibility isn't the best, I've actually found this a really easy car to drive, and I wouldn't have that as really a factor as not to buy this car. Next is the controls. Now, one thing I really like about this car is this lovely open space here. It means no matter how high you have your seat, you can see the binnacle here and how fast you're going. If your hands are at 10 to 2 or on the top of the steering wheel, proper dad driving, you can always see your speedo. However, what you can't see are your control stalks. So until you get used to these, they're just like behind here. They are there, but you're just gonna have to kind of either maneuver or get used to them without being able to actually see them. Next is blanking plates. Now, do you remember when you bought your first car and you had no money and some of the buttons were just blanked off? You could see there were meant to be buttons there, but yours were just blank because you couldn't afford whatever that button did. Do you remember that? Not in the Polestar. This car has cruise control, but it does not have adaptive cruise control. However, it does have the buttons for them. So I found out at 70 miles an hour recently that I don't have adaptive cruise control, which is really quite confusing because it's got this at the front, which I assumed was the radar sensor. Next is the key. Now, do you remember, if you're of a certain age, when you used to have to go to Halfords or a car shop to buy an alarm and actually fit that yourself to your car? Do you remember the controller that came with that alarm system? Well, welcome to the Polestar 2 key. This could be the worst key of any car made, certainly this decade. Next is center storage. So I'm okay here, but if you're really tall, you've got this thing here that's kind of in your way. You've got a little bit of storage in here, same on this side. But what is this? What's in here? I mean, you've got a bit for your phone, you've got your drinks holders, but I don't understand why this thing's here. I mean, it just feels like a leftover from its ice card underpinnings, I guess. Conclusion, I do really like this car. I've had such a blast with it. It goes back in a few days. However, it's been brilliant, really good fun, and it has overall has exceeded my expectations. So the worst things about this car aren't actually that bad, really, are they? But I would encourage you to watch this video here, which is the best things about this car, because there are some really good features on this car. If the video is showing as private, then just like the video and subscribe, and as soon as it's released, it will be fed you in your feed. Until next time, see you soon.